Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, School of Love. My name is Maria and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. From the very beginning, I must emphasize the fact that this channel is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. With that being said, let's dive right into today's topic, which is how to deal with people pleasers, how to handle people pleasers. If you are new to the channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with the mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. So, this is a controversial topic, I know. So usually we see this problematic from the perspective of being a people pleaser and how to heal, how to get rid of this habit, of this mindset of being a people pleaser. But let's say you are in the position of someone who encounters people pleasers or who has to deal with people pleaser in various environments. Friendships, at work, in social gatherings, even in one's family. Let's say someone you know, someone who's close to your brother, your sister, a cousin, maybe even your mother or father, has a new partner, and they fall into this category of being a people pleaser. So how do you deal with someone like this? Because, well, it can be challenging. It is challenging. So the question is, how do we deal with them? In a respectful, but also self-preserving manner. So in today's video, I will start with a definition of what a people pleaser is, a very, very short overview of where they are coming from, and then I will deliver, as usual, 5 stages of raising awareness, raising self-awareness in oneself, and then moving forward towards developing mutually respectful, mutually constructive relationship, interaction. So what is a people pleaser? Of course, a people pleaser is someone who, for a variety of reasons, feels this compulsion to please everyone around them. Some other words for people pleasers are pushovers, lacking backbones, lacking other things. And where are they coming from? What is their worldview? What is their mindset? What is their background? It is very important to understand that people pleasers usually come from a place of trauma, of expanded, prolonged trauma, and usually unhealed trauma, and usually trauma which is also not brought into awareness, into self-awareness. These are people who have been through a lot of conflict, a lot of antagonism, possibly most of the time coming from their primary caregivers, parents, adoptive parents, step-parents, and so on, grandparents. And they have developed a way of being in which their major wish is to have a peaceful life, to find themselves into a place of lack of conflict, and they would do essentially anything to live in harmony and understanding with those around them. So how to deal with someone like this? Because people pleasers are not genuinely trying to please you. They're not coming from a place of self-acceptance and self-confidence. They're doing this in order to gain their own, probably to gain their own validation or affirmation and confirmation. And they're actually very sensitive, and then they can get very resentful and then revengeful very quickly. I'm not saying it in a judgmental manner. I'm only observing and then describing it. A person who is kind from a deep sense of self-assurance, self-assertiveness, self-confidence, knows how to draw boundaries, how to impose those boundaries, and in case they're not respected, how to reinforce them, and eventually how to leave the place. But people pleasers don't know this, and this is why, as someone who deals with them and who has been dealing with them as part of my recovery process, very often one tends to extend their people-pleasing offer, and you never know when they might explode. So how do you deal with them? First of all, as always, the first step is self-awareness. So be or become self-aware that you are dealing with such a person. So their willingness to do something for you, to solve a problem for you, does not come from a place of genuine, authentic kindness, but from a place of niceness, which is looking for some sort of reward or trade-off in you accepting their service, their acts of service, regardless what these acts of service might be. So becoming aware of your position, of your interaction with such a person with people-pleasing tendencies or even people-pleasing habits is fundamental in not taking advantage, even without wanting it, of their service, of their acts of service. And the second point is to identify the trigger both in yourself. So what exactly has attracted this person in your life? It may be something very neutral, like a new employee in a workplace, or you changing workplaces and then encountering this person, or it could be, again, a family situation in which you find yourself into so having to deal with such a person, or simply meeting someone incidentally in the streets or in a coffee shop. So these kind of situations can happen anytime, but how do you deal with it? Not how you do it, identify the trigger, right? Identify what exactly resonates within yourself that it triggers their people-pleasing behavior, and it triggers you reacting to it, because we usually react to this kind of situations. They do not just happen. We react to them, we attract them in our lives. They become part of our quotidian activities, quotidian existence. And if we do not identify the trigger early enough, it's very easy to become entrenched in situations which then require much more effort and much more sacrifice to get disentangled from. And then, as always, the third step is identify the payoff, identify the reward. What exactly can you give them? What are they looking for in you? And then to try to deliver that either unemotionally, either in a casual way, or try to make it clear that that is not on the table. So the worst thing we can do with these people pleasers is to validate the trade-off they're looking for in ourselves. Validating it only leads to a self-reinforcing vicious circle, which then draws us deeper and deeper into their unhealthy habits or mindsets or behaviors, up to a point where we find ourselves unable to disentangle ourselves smoothly or harmoniously from those complicated situations. So it's one thing to have some sort of casual, cordial relationship interaction with someone and to validate each other. It's a different thing to give validation to someone who's actively looking for it and doing everything they can to extract it from you. It becomes a transaction there. It becomes a negotiation process in which you essentially have no way to saying, no, I don't want to be part of this deal. So decipher or identify very quickly the payoff they're looking for in you, and either give it, because usually it's something so trivial, it's something so so unimportant that they don't even have to do something for it or to convince us for it. Sometimes it's more difficult. Someone is something more complex, and then still you can still deliver it, but not as part of a transaction, not as part of a deal in which each of you has a pre-established position. And then it's important to find healthy ways to deal with that person. So to set very firm boundaries. Like people pleasers, because they have very weak or non-existent boundaries, they have huge difficulties in accepting other people's boundaries. So have very, not rigid, but very strict boundaries, very clear boundaries, not strict, very clear boundaries. They can be flexible, but they must be very clear, and be very sure which are your negotiable boundaries, which are your non-negotiable boundaries, and stick with them. Among the worst things you can do with a people pleaser, besides giving them validation and confirmation, or giving them the reward they're looking for as part of a transactional deal, so to say, social transactional deal, is engaging in their people pleasing activities as part of the one being pleased by their mindset, by their behaviors, by their efforts. Do not. It can feel very enticing. It can feel very laudatory. It can feel very self-affirming, but don't do it. Because once you do it, it will be increasingly difficult. You'll engage again in that, because it becomes more and more nature, more and more familiar. And when you realize this is not healthy, neither for you nor for that person, it will be way too late to disentangle yourself from that toxic dynamics. And last but not least is be grateful for that person, be grateful for the lesson, be grateful for the experience, or at least try to become grateful for all these events in your life which make you a better person and which push you forward on your journey of self-improvement and self-discovery and self-betterment. So people pleasers are deeply traumatized individuals. They are not coming from a place of malevolence or malice when they're looking for some sort of compassion and validation and confirmation in the others, and for that they are willing to pay hugely high prices in terms of acts of service, in terms of diligence, in terms of loyalty, and so on. But I think it is very important, it is one of our duties not to take advantage of who they are and what they have to offer, but instead to become part of their support group and to assist them, and to support them, to help them navigate their journey, regardless whether the journey is staying the same, moving towards a better place, or simply trying to survive somehow their own quotidian life. So without judging, without judgment, without disdain or contempt, and without trying to impose upon them our own visions. Let's treat them with compassion, with love, and with radical acceptance. that would be my message for today. Thank you for listening, and I'm very much looking forward to welcoming you back here very soon again. Love and peace to you all.